My name's Brian Knox, and it's a long story of how I came to move here to Kentucky, but it all started about 3 years ago when my best friend Drew was killed in a car accident. Drew was a college roommate of mine, and he was driving with his pregnant wife one day, lost control of the vehicle, and he was killed. And 26 years old, had a whole world in front of him, just an amazing, godly man. And that was the first time that I really had to deal firsthand with intense tragedy and loss. And he was a member of our church, and to see the way that the community and our pastors sort of rallied around this just awful event and really sort of led us to grieve and to figure out how God works in all this it was really sort of an awakening moment in my life. At the time, I was a small business owner of a little beach shop franchise, and it was not going well. I wasn't happy. I was going in and out of some sort of depression, and this event really sort of triggered the idea that that we're not promised anything in life. We're not promised our next breath. And I need to figure out a way to do what God wants me to do and find a way to be joyful about life and be happy. And through the worst event that I could have imagined happening in my life, God used my family, used my church pastors and the community around me to help me realize, and by just hearing God speak into my life, that I was called to ministry. But that meant a couple things. That meant I had to convince my wife. It meant I had a business that I owned that I had to deal with. And we had to figure out what all that meant. So we spent the next 2 years trying to sell our stores. We had 2 locations, and things weren't ever going well. So it's really hard to try and sell a business when there's not a lot there. And being a retail shop as well, it was just really tough. It took 2 years of just real struggle. It was 2 of the hardest years of my life, in and out again of just despair and depression. And my faith was growing stronger because I knew what God had called me to. But at the same time, I was wrestling with, God, what are you doing? I don't see where anything's happening. It's not happening in the time that I want it to happen. And it was just 2 years of the hardest times I've ever been through. And it was actually about a year ago yesterday that we finally sold the stores. But the month before, the end of January, I got a call that our 3rd buyer had fallen through. We'd taken 3 buyers to weeks before closing and being rid of them, and something would always happen and it would fall through. And so at my worst moment, wondering where God was, I sort of threw up a Hail Mary, and I called the franchise corporation and said, our situation. I know you've told us before that you don't buy stores from owners, but I'm just going to ask one last time because we're about done. There's not much more we can do. And the next day I get a call saying, we'll do it. And this is something that they told me they just don't do. And so the only way that I can sort of reconcile what happened was, this is God providing. This is God making a way and taking me through the valley, but not letting me stop in the valley, but walking with me through it to get to the other side. And from that point on, they took the stores from us, which was a giant burden lifted off my shoulders. We were able to sell our home in a week. We sold our home in a week. And just everything started falling in place to where we could leave Panama City, move up to Kentucky, and do what God has called us to do. It's been one of the hardest journeys of my life, but it's been just the most rewarding, most building in me, and I know what I relied on through it all was that God's story never ends in death. God's story always ended in life. And when I thought I was on the edge of the pit, I was in the edge of death. That's God's promises was what I always relied on, that He will provide, and that His story never ends in death but always ends in life, and that there's something on the other side of this struggle. And that's what, between that and my family and my wife and my friends and community, that's what brought us up here. That's what enabled us to become here to this amazing place, and just have God continue to just amaze us with what He has planned for us. What I've learned from this experience has been that no matter what, no matter how dark things can seem to get, life can get, what I've learned is that, God operates in His own way. And I may not ever understand why certain things happen, but what I have to understand that it is in God's character to do everything to His glory. Everything works in His time, and He has a plan and a purpose for me, for my family, and for all of us to live in a way that honors God and honors everything that He's done for us. And I'm excited to see how God uses me here in Kentucky. I'm excited to see how God uses me here at the Offerings gathering, and I'm just excited to see where God takes us. It's a fun ride.